Okay, this will serve kind of two purposes. This is kind of a test video. I bought this camera that I'm using today. Today's Monday, May the 4th, 2009. And I was at Walmart and saw that they had on sale those flip video cameras. They're not the high definition kind, but they're the similar, technology. These old cameras about the size of, I don't know, a pack of cigarettes, a little bigger. And, mainly for web stuff, internet stuff, the resolution isn't all that great. Kind of, I guess maybe a little better than a webcam, or maybe about similar to a webcam as far as resolution. They've got high definition cameras out now that look like fantastic. Look like something you would see in a movie or something, But this isn't that. This was, like I say, $119. And I thought, well, CK has often remarked to me that I should pick up a webcam and maybe do some video things, I don't know, DVD reviews or whatever. I'm not very good at that kind of thing as far as on camera, I write reviews for the site Deadpit, but I don't know, expressing my opinion of a video on video of a movie, I don't know how good I would be at that. I don't know how entertaining it'd be. It'd probably be boring. But I thought I'd go ahead and pick this up and then keep it just in case something might come to mind that to do video wise. And I thought this is the first video I've ever shot, except for a little test thing, so this is all experimental, just to see how this turns out. I don't even know how you upload it to YouTube from the camera. It's supposed to have software in it. I hadn't even plugged it into the computer, so anyway, this is all a crapshoot. We'll see. Anyway, I got back yesterday from Texas Frightmare Weekend 2009 and had a great time. Met some Deadpit fans up there and some board members, among them Alexander, of course, who's a frequent poster on the boards. Great guy, a lot of fun to be around, helped us a lot, helped me with the camera on an interview I did. And you talk about promoting Deadpit. Alexander is, I know there's some others, board members that have been on there maybe longer than Alexander, but not too much longer. I think he said he's been on there since 2006, since it began. I don't want to misquote him or anything, but it seemed like that. He said he's been on there since 2006. But you talk about a #1 Deadpit fan. CK sent me a box of 500 of those cards that they had made promoting Deadpit. And I had, we had some, of course, on the Deadpit table that people would pick up and that we would hand out. And, and my sister, Kathy, she's a salesman by trade, so she really was pimping Deadpit and really, giving away the cards and telling people about it. I was doing my part too, but she was better at it than I was. But Alexander, he covered that convention area. He went everywhere and passed those cards out. And when I was going around looking, kind of shopping around and kind of looking for interviews and things, I would see Deadpit cards at just about every table, or I would see people carrying Deadpit cards. I remember going by Adrienne King's table, and I saw a Deadpit card on her table. So I saw Deadpit cards everywhere. So it got thoroughly promoted at Texas Frightmare Weekend. And most of that is because of Alexander. So give him a big pat on the back, and if you got something you can send him some swag or something, send Alexander something cool, to in appreciation for his steadfast support of Deadpit. So, but met a lot of nice people. T-Shirt Joe, who does the T-shirts for Deadpit, he was there. He showed up with a bunch of black and white T-shirts that were really cool. I'm wearing one of them for Motel Hell. And really, I can't even remember all the stuff, but it's just very, stuff you would never see on a T-shirt. Some horror movies that might be obscure, or B movies, and just Italian giallo movies or something. Just an assortment of really cool horror T-shirts that he printed up and that he designed. And of course, he's posted on the boards before, and he's really becoming popular on the Deadpit board for his T-shirt designs, and he really is good. And he showed up with a big box of T-shirts, and we showed some T-shirts on the at the Deadpit table, and really just moved them. I mean, because he was selling them for $10 and giving them a great deal. And we hopefully will maybe work something out with T-shirt Joe at the next Deadpit table. Was really a great guy, very friendly, very accommodating to everybody, and had some great product. Had great T-shirts. Very very inventive assortment of T-shirts he had. Deidre and her husband showed up again. We saw them, and very nice people and very friendly. And Deidre picked up a MySpace Sessions CD and an On the Road DVD. She picked those up. So everything we had that CK didn't send me a whole lot, but he sent me a couple of On the Road DVDs, a couple, I think it was like 3 MySpace Sessions, I think 4 T-shirts. So we sold everything we had. The only thing we had left was 1 T-shirt and a MySpace Session CD. That was it. So Deadpit, we sold some Deadpit stuff, and definitely, as I say, got those flyers, cards passed out. And now, as for the convention itself, I got to say, I think it's the best one I've been to yet. Last year's Texas Frightmare was great, and as far as their guest lineup and all that, and the way that it was run. But I think this was even better. The way that it was set up at the convention, the big names they had, Alice Cooper, Linda Blair, were out. There, you walk on there's two rooms, and with this more of a, sort of an alcove that you walk out onto first before you get into the main convention hall. And on this first room, there was Linda Blair, there was Derek Mears, there was William Forsythe, Jason Mewes. Let's see, I'm probably missing somebody. But there was that group of people there. And Alice Cooper was in a separate, I think he was on a separate level. I saw Alice Cooper at the Q&A. I actually videotaped some of his Q&A sessions. So I did get to see Alice Cooper, but I didn't get his autograph or anything like that. There were just lines, of course, long lines, but the way that was handled was really handled very well, the lines for Alice Cooper. Not only was it separate from the main convention hall, but it was set up in increments. They had times when he was signing, and the VIP card holders got the first crack at the signatures from Alice Cooper, and then anyone else that bought tickets for Alice Cooper could get their signatures. But it was handled very well, and the way from what I heard, no one had any real complaints about the way that was handled. Someone as big as Alice Cooper was, as far as a big name at a convention, it didn't cause any disruption with any of the other events that went on at the convention or the main convention hall, and was handled very well. Now, the guests. One of the first people I met, because he was on our floor, 8th floor of the Sheraton Grand in Irving, Texas, right by the Dallas-Fort Worth, I don't know if it's Dallas-Fort Worth, but the Dallas airport, the Sheraton Grand. And we were on the 8th floor, and Derek Mears was on our floor. So my sister and I, because my sister brought me up there Friday. Ray Boucher didn't make it until Saturday and stayed most of the day then. He's been helping out with his grandfather and such, so he couldn't make all 3 days. He was just able to come Saturday. So I rode up to the room after we checked in to get to our hotel room. And as soon as the elevator door opens, Derek Mears just walks right towards us, about to get on the elevator. And I said, hey, there's Derek Mears. And Derek Mears is he's like Mr. Rogers in Jason's body. The nicest guy in the world. He treats you like an old friend or something, like a lost relative, Because as soon as I said, hey, there's Derek Mears, he's like, hey, how you doing? He reached out and shook my hand, and then shook my sister's hand, hey, and you are, and I'm Kathy, hey, I'm Derek, glad to meet you. And just, Derek Mears, I'm sure you've heard that before, other people that have met him talk about how nice he is. He really is. You'll never meet a nicer guy than Derek Mears. Just beyond friendly, So that was a nice experience right off the bat, before I met any of the other, well, I'll get to Dick Miller here in a minute. But I guess it was the second celebrity I met was Derek Mears. Great guy, Derek Mears. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Okay, so when we get at the hotel, we finally find the place. I had a Dick Miller interview set up for 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. And we got there about 9:30. So I was sweating, and I'm kind of nervous. Originally Ray was going to be at all 3 days, and he was going to do a lot of those interviews. Because, frankly, he's just better at it than I am. I don't get nervous meeting the people, except for, with a few exceptions. I don't really get very nervous meeting them. I get nervous when the camera's turned on me, though. And just something about being on camera with a celebrity. I don't care how their level of status or how famous they are. I just get nervous when the camera's turned on me. And I'm asking questions. And I'm trying to remember the questions I want to ask, or a lot of times I'm making it up off the top of my head. And I get nervous. So I'm nervous already, and I'm looking for Dick Miller. This has already been set up. I had contacted Dick Miller's wife, Lainey Miller, and already had set up this 10 a.m. interview on Friday morning. And was trying to remember my questions I had, and I had it written down. I didn't want to refer to them unless I absolutely had to. I wanted to, try to be as professional as possible, but, look at me. Professional is just not my style. I do good just even remembering the questions, much less looking professional. But in any case, so I'm looking for Dick Miller, and I'm kind of looking around the lobby and such, and suddenly I feel someone tapping me on the shoulder, and I turn around, and here's this little old man smiling up at me, a little short little old guy. And he says, you're the one I'm supposed to talk to? And there's Dick Miller. Well, now, Dick Miller's in his 80s. I think he's 85. I'm not positive, but I think he's 85. He's a little old guy, and he's a little short little old guy. Had a little white beard going, not big bushy, but kind of a little white beard, But I did, of course, Dick Miller. He's instantly recognizable. Of course, all the movies he's been in, Gremlins, Terminator, The Howling, the movies of Roger Corman, Bucket of Blood. Dick Miller, to me, is an icon. He's huge. He's as far as, kind of growing up watching the horror movies, watching genre movies, and being a big fan of those kind of movies. A lot of those movies had Dick Miller in it somewhere. He's a character actor. He usually didn't have a real big part, but he was always prominent in a lot of these movies. And so to see Dick Miller standing right in front of me, I'm like, oh, wow, there's Mr. Miller, And I shook his hand, and he said, well, where are we going to do this? Well, I had talked to the hotel clerk after we checked in. I told her that I had an interview set up with one of the guests at the convention, and would it be possible to do it in the lobby? And she said, well, you'll need to talk to the manager first. And I thought, well, fuck that. Pardon my French. I'll just go out to the convention floor, because this is Friday morning. It's 10 a.m. They don't open for the public until 5, so there's not many people out there except for people setting up tables and stuff. So we went out to that main area, and there was a table there, didn't have anybody at it, so we just sat there and we did the interview there. And of course I'm once the camera gets on me, I'm nervous, so I flub some I flub it first and stuff. But he was, it couldn't have been nicer. He was really cool, Mr. Miller, Dick Miller. I have to call him Mr. Miller, out of respect. But very friendly, really, just a sweet old guy. And I think it turned out pretty good. It was a 10-15 minute interview. It lasted pretty long, And his wife was real nice. My sister visited with his wife afterwards and before the interview. And that, just great to meet him, but not only meet him, but just to get a chance to sit down and talk to him about working with Joe Dante and Roger Corman and such. So, cool way to start off the convention before it even opens is with Dick Miller and meeting Derek Mears. Now, just kind of jumping ahead, the interviews I got. Now, unfortunately, since Ray couldn't make Friday and Sunday, and Sunday always being the day when it's the less busiest at a convention, at any convention, Sunday's always going to be the day that, it slows down. There's people are going home. It's not as definitely not as crowded, and you get more of an opportunity to approach a guest and try to set up an interview. And Saturday is when Ray was there. He showed up, for most of the day Saturday. But unfortunately, Saturday, of course, is a madhouse. Saturday is the biggest day of any convention, and it's always going to be the busiest. And in this case, it was just, huge crowds. But the way that they set this up at the convention floor, even though it was a huge crowd, there was only a few times I really felt that I was, that it felt crowded. It didn't really feel all that crowded. You could make it to the tables and all that, and the people that were set up selling T-shirts or whatever, the vendors and all that. I had no trouble with that. And even a lot of the celebrities, they didn't have very long lines. Even, the more popular ones didn't. It's set up very well. But, of course, they're always going to be busy. And that's not a day to get interviews done. Sunday's the day to get your interviews done. And I had to do that myself. And I'm just not very good at it. I try to do it. And when you see these interviews, fortunately, most of them do most of the talking. So that's good in my case, because I try, but I just don't feel I'm very good at interviews. Ray's so much better at it than I am. And Ray did interview Eric Stanzi, who's got a new movie, and I can't think of what the name of it is right now, but Eric Stanzi and Jason Christ and some of the actors from his new movie. Ray interviewed them, and he interviewed Chester Grimm. I was busy shopping around and trying to meet some of the guests, so I didn't really get to see Chester Grimm, but Ray got an interview with Chester Grimm, which you'll see. And so, Sunday, I got interviews. I got an interview with William Forsythe. Really, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but just the truth is, these were just very friendly people. In most cases, very nice, very friendly people. I didn't meet Linda Blair, so I can't tell you how she was. I did see her, and I did walk around her table, and then she had pretty long lines, of getting autographs from her. But I saw her pose for pictures, and she would sort of banter with them and talk and chat with them and stuff, and I saw her laughing a few times. So, you hear a lot about how she's very, she can be very stickler for, you got to pay for a picture, you got to pay for an autograph. I don't know. I want to say she charged $25 for autographs. It was either $25 or $30, but I think she charged $25. I believe Alice Cooper charged $30 for autographs, but I can't be 100% sure. But from what I saw just from a distance, Linda Blair seemed okay. She didn't seem, then someone may tell you different. And I'd like to hear if anyone else went to the convention what they have to say about Linda Blair and how she treated people. But from what I saw, she was smiling. She was, she talked to people. She wasn't overly nice, but she seemed, I didn't see her go off on anybody or yell at anybody for taking her picture or anything. But I think a lot of people go to the convention. I didn't even try to take a picture of her because after the stories I've heard about how she'll go off on someone that takes a picture without paying her or something. I didn't even try to take a picture of her or anything. So I don't know. Maybe she did. Maybe she did go off on somebody. I don't know. So I'd like to hear anyone that went to the convention and saw and that maybe actually got an interview, or not an interview, but got her signature, Linda Blair's signature. How was she? How did she treat you? But anyway, I talked to William Forsythe. That went as far as him being very talkative and had a lot to say. I want to say the interview with William Forsythe was as long as the one with Dick Miller. So yeah, he liked to talk. He didn't have anything that was off topic. I wanted to talk to him about Raising Arizona, which for me is one of my favorite movies ever. Just period. Definitely one of my favorite comedies, in the top 5 at least. And of course, he's in Raising Arizona. He's John Goodman's brother in that. They break out of prison and such. And so I wanted to talk to him about that. And of course, he's there kind of as a horror. At a horror convention, Sheriff Wydell, and he's going to play John Wayne Gacy in a movie coming up. I wanted to talk to him about Raising Arizona. So, but we did talk about Sheriff Wydell, and he did talk about he played Al Capone. After I don't know, a lot of people may not know this, but after the Untouchables movie came out, the one with Kevin Costner and Robert De Niro as Al Capone, there was an Al Capone series. I mean, Al Capone. There was a Untouchables series, like a reboot of the Untouchables after that movie came out. And William Forsythe played Al Capone. And I used to watch that all the time. I mean, I thought it was a great, great portrayal of Al Capone. And he talked about that in detail. So great interview with William Forsythe, at least his part of it. My stupid ass and flubbing questions and stuff, which hopefully will be edited out good enough to make it look presentable. But anyway, that went well. I talked to James Hampton, who played the father in Teen Wolf. But then again, I always attach to a movie that isn't a horror movie with these celebs a lot of times. And in this case, James Hampton was the guy who ran the mental hospital in Sling Blade. And I wanted to talk to him about working with Billy Bob Thornton and how he got the part and, and such as that. So, and we did touch on Teen Wolf, but I wanted to talk about Sling Blade, so we talked a lot about Sling Blade. I talked to Mal Arnold, and Fuad Ramses from Blood Feast. And so you Blood Feast fans and you Herschel Gordon Lewis fans, you get to see Mal Arnold. He was very forthcoming. He liked to talk. Seemed pleased to talk about Blood Feast and working with Herschel Gordon Lewis and shooting that movie. I think I don't know about the Deadpit guys. I don't think they're they're fans of Herschel Gordon Lewis much. And I'm kind of on the fence about Herschel Gordon Lewis movies. They look cheap and shoddy, and they're not very. I don't know. I mean, they're definitely cheap looking, but I do think they have their place, definitely. Of course, they sort of Herschel Gordon Lewis invented the gore movie, more or less. So, I mean, in that context, it's worth hearing about, and it's interesting of how that came about. But anyway, got an interview with Mal Arnold. Let's see. And, C.J. Graham. We talked to, or Ray did. Ray interviewed C.J. Graham last year at Vivis. And we talked about Jason, or he did. He talked about playing Jason in Friday the 13th Part 6. So I wanted to avoid another Jason, talking about Jason again. So what do? At a horror convention, instead of talking about, a horror movie, or talking about playing Jason, or playing Hell Cop in Highway to Hell, I talked to him about owning a casino, or running a casino. He runs a casino. And I didn't even know that until I was in the elevator with him and then asked him, what else have you got you're working on? And he said, well, I run a casino at the Palm. And I didn't know that. So I talked to him about that, And wait till you see, we're standing. Wait till you see me standing next to C.J. Graham and you see the height difference. I'm a fucking midget. Oh my God, I'm Billy Barty compared to C.J. Graham. I mean, obviously, anyone that plays Jason is going to be a big, muscly guy. But it is ridiculous how short I am compared to C.J. Graham. And he kind of teases me about that, and so that's funny. And I don't know if I'm missing anybody or not. I interviewed the cast of Wild Man of the Navidad. Kim Hinkle, co-writer of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is a producer on that film. And I talked to the cast and crew of that. And but the last interview I got, it's not very long, but it ends on a funny note. How can it not end on a funny note with Jason Mears? Jay of Jay and Silent Bob movies, of course, the Kevin Smith movies, Jack and Miri Make a Porno, and on, Feast. And he was out smoking a cigarette, and I said, hey, I'd already talked to him before, I talked to him then about doing an interview, and he said, yeah, man, whatever, just hook me up, I'll hook you up, Real cool guy, Jason Mears, very friendly, just kind of what you would think he would be. He's, very cool with everybody, likes to visit, and, he can bullshit with you, and, didn't have any trouble at all talking to him and got him on camera. And the interview isn't very long. It's probably the shortest one I did with Jason Mears, and he's outside of the hotel. But it definitely ends on a funny note. I'm not even going to reveal what happens, but it's typical Jason Mears. It's definitely what you would see, something he would say like in a Kevin Smith movie. It's funny shit. So got Jason Mears on camera and got a little interview with him. But anyway, just overall, great convention. Lloyd Cryer, I can't thank him enough for setting us up a table, the second year in a row, and just treating us great. Very, very nice guy. Just as a person, Lloyd's a very friendly guy, and puts on a great show. And I wanted to actually interview him about running a convention, and that I did that audio interview that Deadpit posted, but he was just too busy. He was just I just don't know how anyone does that. Running a convention with all those people, with all the bullshit that you have to put up with some of the agents and such, and maybe some of the guests, but I didn't see anything that was askew. It all seemed to run, great. All seemed to flow very well. Everyone seemed to have a great time. To me, it was a big success. And only thing, and of course, this is an issue that's been discussed often, and the autograph fees. Several of the guests, Toby Hooper, Caroline Williams, who was also very friendly. I talked to her. I didn't interview her, but I talked with her and visited with her, and she's very nice. But Dick Miller, a bunch of them. I think maybe Tyler Maine, but I'm not sure. They charge $25 for autographs. So a lot of $25 autographs, fees. And I don't know what I don't. Let me back up a little bit though, because I think maybe Caroline Williams. I think maybe she had $20, like if it was your item or something like that. I don't want to, give you misinformation and have anyone pissed off at me. I think it was, suppose Caroline Williams sees this and sues me or something. So let me backpedal a little bit. Let me just not name everyone, because I don't really know who all charged $25. I'll just say I saw a lot of $25 autographs at the tables, and the Deadpit guys and me too. A lot of people feel that even $20 is a little high for some people. Definitely shouldn't be any higher than $20, and I don't know if it's the economy or what. But so a lot of $25 autographs. So that's the only negative I would say about the convention. Fortunately for me, I'm just not a big autograph collector. I bought Dick Miller's autograph, and that was the only one I bought at the convention. I like to talk to him. I like, I get nervous doing interviews, but, for Deadpit and try to present something for the website, we try to set up interviews. But as far as autographs, they just don't do anything for me. I like to get out there, maybe look for, a DVD or something to buy or a T-shirt or something, and just meet people. And that's why I go to these conventions. That's what I enjoy. I just enjoy the atmosphere, and meeting the guests that's fine with me. Having their signature, it really does little or nothing for me. I know a lot of people are huge collectors of autographs, and a lot of people, that's why they go to conventions, is to get the autographs on their posters or DVDs and such. And I just don't have room for most of that stuff. But it just didn't do anything for me. I'm just not I'm not an autograph collector, and I never have been. Last year I got Dee Wallace's autograph, and this year I got Dick Miller's. And as far as autographs that I've purchased, that's the only two. That's it at any convention. But $25. I saw a lot of $25 autographs. So there you go. Other than that, I have no complaints. I think it was a great show. I just can't say enough how much fun I had, and the people I met, and Alexander, and T-Shirt Joe, and Deidre and her husband. I wish I could remember his name. And my sister, Ray. Just everyone that was there, that came to the table and visited with us, and bought Deadpit merchandise, or bought a copy of Dawn. Sold several copies of Dawn. That movie I made. Just had a great time, and what else can I say? It definitely was a success. Texas Frightmare Weekend 2009, And I'm sorry if I've bored you. I'm sure I have. But this is my test video for the flip cam or flip video or whatever this thing is called. And let's see if I can get this on YouTube and let's see what it looks like. Okay? All right. Well.